welcome to another episode of Coffee and Beats. I am your musical barista, Rod the Magnificent, and welcome back to the cafe. Yes, it's been a while since I've been in the cafe. Had a few personal things going on and transpiring in my life, so I wasn't able to get a lot of episodes in for you, but I'm back on the mic. I'm back in the cafe. I'm back with some coffee, some fresh flavors for you, and some fresh music, most importantly. I look forward to doing this episode with you. I got 3 albums that I'm going to be recommending today, and I'm going to take it slow since I'm playing a little catch up here. Some of these albums have been out for a minute, and you're going to get my opinions on them. But then there are some albums that you might not know that are out yet. So I'm about to give you those recommendations. Don't have coffee recommendations for this episode. I'm going to be doing that in a separate episode, so stay tuned for that. And the only way to get that is if you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and share this with your loved ones because I'm sure
they would all love to hear this.
Starting off with our first album, I got James Blake with his new release, Friends That Break My Heart. He's back with his 5th studio album, following up from his 2019 release, Assume Form, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was a very mellow album, and it also had a nice mixture of hip-hop and trap. You kind of saw James Blake tapping into his trap roots on that album. He did a pretty good job at that. It wasn't overbearing. He didn't seem like he was out of place, especially with some of the features on that record. But here we are with his new record, Friends That Break Your Heart. 12 new tracks, rounding off at about 44 minutes. And James Blake, he hits us with a very deep and personal album, reflecting on failed relationships, friendships, tragic loss of friends, all of this going on during the pandemic. And I'm telling you, the way he's singing on this album, it makes it seem like the stuff that he went through is stuff
that you don't wish on your own worst enemy.
On the production side of things, he gets some very nice contributions from producers like Dominic Maker, Take a Day Trip, and also he got his current girlfriend, Jamil, if I'm saying that right, also offers some contributions to this album. It was a little controversy to her hand in the production of this album. It was a big mess about whether or not she actually had some producer credits to this particular album, but James Blake confirmed it later and said she did have some contributions to this album. So that clears it up. If you don't want to go too deep into the story, you heard it here on Coffee and Beats.
He was cool with his girlfriend making his beats.
I would be cool with my wife making my beats if she was fired. But it's definitely not a pop and play album. I will tell you that. I will forewarn you that this is definitely a mood album, because this is a pain therapy trip down the mind and the heart and the soul of James Blake. Now, the production is very subtle, but it's with sad music and sad lyrics. And some of the beats hit heavy. Bass lines on some of these records are pretty good. Great feature from SZA. Really like that song. I'll have all the songs listed in the description box so you'll know which songs to go ahead and add to your playlist. But SZA had a very nice feature. I also really enjoyed the chemistry that he had with Monica Martin. Monica Martin just has a beautiful voice. On the song Show Me, Monica Martin just gives a breathtaking performance, collaboration with James Blake. They both sound alike almost. She was just like a female version of James Blake, but all the music on it's laid out very smooth, very elegant. And also check out the track Say What You Will. Especially, most notably, it has a beautiful vocal performance by James Blake. Take a listen to the conclusion as he held such a beautiful note at the end. And I know studio tricks can play a role in that, but I really thought that was naturally him. He really was in pain holding that note, not in a bad way, but just you could feel his pain of whatever he was going through the pandemic. He really put his heart and soul into that particular track. So all in all, do I see myself going back to this album? Maybe just to get a couple of songs, but not as a whole. It's definitely a mood album. This is one of those I can relate to you albums, where it's not someone trying to give you the answers to your problems or the answers to your situation or trying to solve the issue. Just somebody that just got a listening ear. And that listening ear is James Blake. Other than that, otherwise, even though I don't see myself going back to this record, I still think it's a good record. And I give it a 7 out of 10 overall. Up next, we got Nubya Garcia with her new remix album, Source We Move, or Source Plus We Move. And just a little background on her. She's a London-based saxophonist slash composer whose critically acclaimed album from last year, Source, has been on a short list of prestigious Mercury prizes. She returns with a remix to that wonderful album from last year. Actually, that album ended up on my end of the year list as one of the best jazz albums from last year. Do yourself a favor, go back and listen to that first before you listen to this, because you won't really appreciate this album if you don't go backwards and listen to the debut album. It also features a lot of collaborations. A few collaborations, most notably some names that you might be familiar with. Georgia Ann Muldrow, which I reviewed her album in my first season that she released earlier this year. DJ Harrison and Moses Boyd also made some contributions, just to name a few. This features 9 remix tracks, rounding off at about 35 minutes, and the record features fine-tuned Afro beats combined with elements of hip-hop, reggae, calypso, and jazz. And sonically, the remixes on here really complement the original. Almost all the songs are well arranged and properly mixed, and really lives up to the mellow vibes we received from her debut album. It definitely makes for good background music that will keep those cafe conversations going while you're sipping on a nice brew. All in all, this is a very good album. I'm not going to give this a scale of 1 to 10 rating, only because it's a remix album and I don't really count remixes as actual albums. It's just a remix. I give this album a pretty good out of 10. Even if you don't check out the debut album to this and you pop this in, you'll be satisfied. You're even gonna catch yourself dancing to a couple of these tracks on here as well. So if you're not up on Nubya Garcia,
You're welcome.
last but not least, we got Bad Bad Not Good with their new album, their second album, studio album, Talk Memory. And this is their second studio album in 6 years, following up their debut album, 4, providing us with 8 smooth but lengthy tracks, clocking in at about 40 minutes. Now this record is buttery smooth, it's very theatrical. For example, the song Signal from the Noise, it makes you feel like you're going down this long dark hallway and you hear the horns and you hear the keys just building up to something, and then this door pops out and you go inside this door, and after 2 minutes of searching for someone, you go into this door and you end up in this cafe with one of the greatest bands put together that you can think of, and they're all in there and they're just jamming out to instruments. That's what you're gonna get with this particular album. I really enjoyed this one. You can pop this in if you got an office job. Perfect background music. And also, here's the thing, they branch away from their hip-hop roots on this album. So for those who've been listening to Bad Bad Not Good for quite some time, they're a hip-hop magnet to a lot of artists over the last few years because of their boom bap style with a lot of their instrumentals. That's what attracted me to Bad Bad Not Good, is just how vibrant their sound was. Even though there's no words to it, they're all telling a story. They're one of those groups that just gives you that instrumentation with their production that sonically they sound very profound. Everything is precise, everything is well arranged, and I just really appreciate this record. Here's a couple of features that you want to take note of. Terrace Martin, who also collaborated in past projects with the likes of Ninth Wonder and Robert Glasper, is on this album. Arthur Verosier, if I said that right. He also featured on Hiatus Coyote's Move Valiant album that came out earlier this year. They were able to dig him out of the crates to get him back to playing music, and apparently apparently Bad Bad Not Good jumped on the bandwagon as well. But all in all, I really enjoyed this project. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Definitely an excellent album, and will also be featured in my end of the year list. And that will do it for another episode of Coffee and Beats. I am your musical barista, Rod the Magnificent. Hey, keep watching. I got more reviews on the way. I also got some coffee flavors that I'm going to be cooking up in the kitchen. I'm going to post those as well, so you can really get your flavors on. I know it's around the winter time, things are getting cold, so you're going to want a nice warm brew, and I'm going to be here to help you with that. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the like. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. Share it with a friend. Also, download the podcast, the Rod the Magnificent Coffee and Beats podcast. I will be uploading some mixtapes on there soon. And also, don't forget to don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Rod the Magnificent Coffee and Beats. With that being said, I'm your musical barista, Rod the Magnificent. And again, when it comes to music and when it comes to coffee, stay grounded for life. I will see you on the next one.